Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great day today. It is Wednesday, March 24th. Yeah, it's the 24th day of March. Let's look at our calendar. I've got our little kitten calendar here. Okay, let's find the 24th. Here we go, right there. It's the 24th of March. And when we go straight up, we see the abbreviation for Wednesday. So it's Wednesday, the 24th. And right down here, we see March 2021. Well, we just have one book to look at today. It's a little bit longer of a book. It's called George Gershwin Creates Rhapsody in Blue, the music of George in George's head. So this is the music George was thinking about. Let's read about this. We'll find out more about George Gershwin. Ooh, look at the opening picture. That's beautiful. The music in George's head. George heard music all the time, at home, at school, even when he was roller skating down New York's busy streets. Oh, there's George right there roller skating. Sometimes he was so busy listening to the beautiful music in his head, he didn't pay attention to other things, like getting to school on time. And now George wasn't a troublemaker. He just couldn't stop thinking about Melody in F, a classical tune he'd heard at the Penny Arcade. Wow, look at these pictures. These are beautiful. No one knew George was interested in music until his mother decided the family needed a piano. George's older brother, Ira, took one look at the second-hand instrument and headed to his room. But George ran to the piano, spun the stool down, and lifted the keyboard cover. When he felt those smooth keys beneath his fingers, his face lit up like the lights on Broadway. Ooh, look at him playing the piano there. Without a word, he pounded out a popular ragtime tune. His mother was amazed. She had no idea he'd been practicing on a friend's player piano. Oh, so he'd been practicing. Wow, that had to be a surprise. George began studying with some of the best piano teachers in town. At night, he sneaked into concerts to hear famous pianists play. He pasted pictures of his favorite composers like Liszt, Ornstein, and Busoni into his music scrapbook. When he was 15, George started working at Remnick's music store. He played sheet music that customers asked to hear. George also wrote his own tunes, lively, fun, and different. At 17, he sold his first one. Wow, so he sold his first musical piece at 17. That's amazing. 3 years later, on a bumpy bus ride, George hears new melodies. Among the clatter and noise of New York's bustling streets, toes tapping, he plucked out notes for a tune called Swanee. The loud music annoyed his father, but George kept on playing. He just couldn't quit thinking about those city noises. Millions of people bought recordings of Swanee. Soon, George was invited to every party in town where he played Biddy Bop Blues tunes all night long. By 1920, everyone knew George Gershwin, the young hit songwriter. Oh, wow, there he is right there. I love the old car he's riding in. People wondered what kind of music the bold, creative composer would write next, but George already knew jazz. Oh, that's great. As a boy, he roller skated to New York's Harlem nightclubs to hear the smooth jazz rhythms in clubs and restaurants. Most serious musicians thought jazz wasn't music at all. The notes were restless, untamed, and the rhythm was wild and unpredictable. Oh, I love jazz. Band leader Paul Whitman loved George's wild, restless music. Determined to prove hip musicians like George were playing important music, Whitman planned a concert, an experiment in modern music. He was sure people would go crazy for the new jazzy arrangements. Ooh, that sounds like a fun concert. George set out to compose a dazzling and daring piece for the concert, one that showed jazz was exciting, limitless, and free. He scratched his head and paced the floors and scratched and paced some more. He'd barely written a single note when he had to leave town for the opening of his new musical, Sweet Little Devil. So yeah, that was a musical he made before this new opening piece was needed. The train's steely wheels creaked into motion, ratty-tat-tat-bang, and huge wheels rolled faster and faster, ratty-tat-bang, ratty-tat-bang. Faster still, the heavy wheels seemed to fly over the metal track, ratty-tat-bang, ratty-tat-bang, ratty-tat-bang. And that's when George heard it. Music, notes, rhythms, slow and steady, fast and furious. The train noises created new melodies in his head. He thought about the old familiar music he loved, classic ragtime and jazz and blues, and the different styles of music blended together into one beautiful rhapsody. George heard his concerto. He even saw the notes on paper. So he was visualizing the notes on paper before he even made out the music. That's amazing. Back home, George finished his concerto. It was just as he planned, daring and razzmatazz dazzling. It was a musical kaleidoscope of America's melting pop, Rhapsody in Blue. So yeah, that was his most famous piece, Rhapsody in Blue. And we see the things he's thinking about, the train and the dancers and everything right there. With the concert only 1 week away, George and the orchestra started practicing. During rehearsals, a clarinet player decided to play a joke on George. At the beginning of the Rhapsody, his clarinet let out a long whooping wail. Woo! All the musicians laughed, but George didn't. He told the clarinet player to wail like that in the concert. Oh my goodness, how different. A silent silvery snow decorated the city for the big day, February 12th, 1924. Hurried feet pounded staccato beats as people rushed inside Arlene Hall. Every seat was filled, the lights dimmed, and the first of the 26 musical numbers began. Ooh, how exciting. Backstage, George listened and waited. He was scheduled to perform next to last. Ooh, gosh, I bet the nerves were just crazy waiting to perform next to last. As the band blew, plucked, and strummed, the packed hall grew hot and stuffy. Eyelids began to close, and people squirmed in their seats. Some stood up to leave. Then George sat down at the piano. A clarinet fluttered softly like butterfly wings on a morning breeze, and George smiled at the clarinet player. Okay, they're getting ready to start. Well, the clarinet wailed as it slid up 18 notes. Wow-wee. Sleepy eyes flew open. Restless listeners sat still. People heading for the door hurried back to their seats. Trombones and trumpets blew brassy sounds, small and soft, then big and bright. Velvety violins started to sing, and more musicians joined in, each carefully playing their sheets of music. Fingers flying, George made those piano keys march, skip, and dance. But he didn't have sheet music. George played the notes in his head. Oh, wow. The room was electrified, energized. People were surprised to hear new melodies mixed with classical, ragtime, jazz, and the blues. George's Rhapsody in Blue was smooth and sultry, brass and bouncy. It turned an up-tempo march melody. No one had ever heard anything like it except George. He'd been hearing beautiful music all of his life. The end. I'm going to read you a little bit about the history of George right here, though, too, okay? So, it was on a train with its steely rhythms and its rattly bang that is often so stimulating to the composer. And there I suddenly heard and even saw on paper the complete construction of this rhapsody from beginning to end. So that's George in his own words talking about when he first heard Rhapsody in Blue in his mind. George Gerwin composed a long list of tunes during his short 38-year life. This story presents significant events in George's life that illustrate his connection to the various kinds of music that appear in Rhapsody in Blue. At age 6, George fell in love with classical music. He later shared his memories of the momentous day. I stood outside a penny arcade listening to an automatic piano leaping through melody in F, and the particular jumps in the music held me rooted. To this very day, I can hear the tune without picturing myself, I can't hear the tune without picturing myself outside of the arcade on 125th Street, standing there barefoot in overalls and listening. Oh, that's a wonderful setup for this book. I love this. This was called The Music in George's Head. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, friends. Have a great day.